Something serious is unfolding in British politics, and it's shaking Westminster in a way we haven't seen for years. The UK government has launched a major investigation into foreign interference in British democracy after a former politician was convicted of taking money to secretly promote the interests of a foreign power. This isn't a rumor. This isn't speculation. This is a confirmed court case, and the fallout is only just beginning. The trigger was the conviction of a former member linked to Reform UK, found guilty of accepting payments to influence political messaging in Britain. According to court findings, this wasn't lobbying in the open. It was covert, strategic, and designed to shape public opinion from the shadows. The moment this verdict came out, alarm bells rang across Westminster. Within days, Prime Minister Keir Starmer ordered an independent review into foreign political interference, signaling just how seriously the government views the threat. Officials are now openly questioning whether hostile states may have been quietly influencing British politics for years, without voters ever knowing. And this is what makes the story explosive. This isn't just about one politician. It's about how vulnerable elections really are. It's about foreign money slipping into domestic politics. And it's about whether the system designed to protect democracy has been asleep at the wheel. Inside Parliament, tensions are rising. Opposition MPs are demanding answers. Government ministers are urging calm. But privately, there's deep concern. Because once trust in elections is questioned, the damage spreads fast. For the public, the reaction is blunt. Anger, disbelief, and a familiar question. How did this happen? This investigation could expose weaknesses in political funding, online influence, and national security safeguards. And depending on what it uncovers, it could force sweeping changes to how British politics operates. This is not just a scandal, it's a warning. In the next part, we'll break down what this investigation will actually look at, who could be affected, and why this case could be just the tip of a much bigger iceberg. Stay with it, because this story is far from over. What makes this story far more serious than a normal political scandal is what the investigation is actually looking into. This isn't just about one individual taking money. It's about whether foreign powers may have tried to influence British democracy itself. After the conviction of a former political figure linked to Reform UK, the government moved quickly. The concern inside Westminster was simple but alarming. If it happened once, how many times has it gone unnoticed? The new independent review is expected to examine how foreign money, lobbying, and influence can quietly enter UK politics through think tanks, consultancies, media appearances, and even online messaging. Officials are particularly worried about indirect influence, where money doesn't go straight to a party, but to individuals who shape public opinion. Prime Minister Keir Starmer has said the review is about protecting the integrity of elections and restoring public trust. But critics argue this should have happened years ago, not after a criminal conviction forced the issue into the open. Security experts warn that modern interference doesn't look like spies or secret meetings anymore. It looks legal. It looks boring. And that's what makes it dangerous. Payments described as consulting fees. Appearances framed as commentary. Influence disguised as free speech. Inside Parliament, MPs from multiple parties are now asking uncomfortable questions. How well are donations tracked? Who checks foreign links? And how many warnings were ignored? For the public, the issue cuts deep. At a time when trust in politics is already fragile, the idea that outside forces could be shaping debates, narratives, or even elections feels like a direct betrayal. And this investigation is only just beginning. In the next part, we'll look at which foreign actors are raising the biggest concerns, why intelligence officials are worried, and how global power struggles are quietly playing out inside UK politics, often without voters ever realizing it. As details of the investigation emerged, attention quickly turned to how foreign influence actually works inside British politics, and why this case has alarmed Westminster so deeply. According to court findings, the convicted former politician was paid to promote positions that aligned with Russian interests, raising serious questions about how vulnerable democratic systems can be to outside money. This wasn't about hacking or cyber attacks. It was about influence, access, and credibility. Experts warn that this method is far more dangerous because it hides in plain sight. When foreign money flows through individuals who already have political standing, it doesn't look like interference. It looks like legitimate opinion. That's what makes this case so unsettling. Security analysts say foreign states don't need to control elections outright. They only need to shape conversations, soften criticism, and create confusion. Over time, That can weaken trust in institutions and divide the public from within. In Parliament, MPs from multiple parties quietly admit this is not an isolated problem. Concerns have been raised before about donations, lobbying, and undisclosed relationships. But this is one of the first times a criminal conviction has forced the issue into the open. The involvement of a former member linked to Reform UK has also intensified scrutiny on smaller and rising political movements, where vetting systems are often less robust than in major parties. The government insists this investigation is not about targeting any one party, but about protecting democracy itself. Still, critics argue the response may have come too late. As global tensions rise in countries like Russia continue to be accused of destabilization efforts abroad, Britain now faces a difficult reality. Safeguarding elections is no longer just about ballot boxes. It's about money, influence, and transparency. And this investigation may only be the beginning. In the next part, we'll look at how this probe could change UK election rules, political funding, and public trust permanently. What makes this foreign interference probe so serious is what could happen next. If investigators find that foreign money or influence has quietly shaped British politics, the consequences won't be limited to one individual or one party. It could trigger sweeping changes across the entire political system. First, there's the issue of election integrity. Any suggestion that foreign actors attempted to influence MPs, parties, or public debate raises fears about whether voters were unknowingly manipulated. That strikes at the heart of democracy itself. Second, political funding rules could change dramatically. The government may tighten donation laws, increase transparency requirements, and expand the powers of watchdogs like the Electoral Commission. Some MPs are already warning that current safeguards are outdated in the age of digital influence and covert funding. Third, the political fallout could be explosive. Parties linked, even indirectly, to individuals. Under investigation risk reputational damage, rivals will seize on the story, using it as proof that the system has been compromised, while trust in politicians could fall even further. Security experts are also watching closely. If foreign governments are found to have tested Britain's political defenses, it could lead to stronger intelligence oversight and tougher counter-interference laws, similar to steps taken in the US and Europe. For now, the investigation continues quietly behind closed doors, but its impact may be loud, lasting, and unavoidable. Because once questions are raised about who really influences politics, the public doesn't forget easily. And this story is far from over. What happens next could shape British politics for years, not because of one conviction, but because of what it reveals about the system itself. The Foreign Interference Review ordered by Keir Starmer is expected to examine how money, influence, and access move through British politics, often quietly, legally, and without public scrutiny. That alone has unsettled Westminster. Political parties are now under pressure to prove their funding sources are clean. Internal checks that once happened behind closed doors are suddenly being questioned in public, and voters are watching closely. For Reform UK, the damage is already done. Even though the convicted individual no longer represents the party, the association has given opponents ammunition and reinforced fears that newer or outsider movements may be more vulnerable to foreign influence. But this story doesn't stop with one party. The uncomfortable truth is that every major party could face scrutiny if the review expands. Donations, lobbying, think tanks, consultancy roles, all of it sits in a gray zone, where influence doesn't always look illegal, but still shapes decisions. That's why this investigation matters. If the review leads to tighter rules, more transparency, and real enforcement, it could restore some public trust. But if it ends quietly, with minimal reform, it risks deepening cynicism, reinforcing the belief that politics protects itself. Internationally, allies are watching too. Britain has often positioned itself as a defender of democratic integrity. How it handles this moment will affect its credibility abroad, especially at a time when election interference is a global concern. And for ordinary voters, the question is simple. If foreign money can influence politicians, who is really being represented? This isn't just a scandal. It's a test of transparency, a test of political courage, and a test of whether British democracy can adapt to modern threats or remain one step behind them. Because once trust is lost, it's far harder to win back than any election.